Judgespektre here, and today I'm going to be talking about Syphon Filter. This game was released on the PlayStation 1 in 1999, and upon its release it drew some comparisons to Metal Gear Solid. Now, Metal Gear Solid was the big title at that time, the spy stealth title, and any game that came out that looked similar was inevitably going to draw some comparisons. But looking back, I have to say that the two games have very little, if anything, really in common beyond the most basic spy stealth setup. Very different video games. The biggest difference that I can see right off the bat is the fact that stealth is not emphasized in Syphon Filter nearly as much as it is in Metal Gear. There's a few missions in Syphon Filter which require stealth, I think. And sneaking up on people in some areas does have its advantages, but it's never that big of a deal. Now, with the basic setup for Syphon Filter, you have the main character, Gabe Logan, going out to supposedly stop terrorists from releasing a virus known as Syphon Filter. Now, the storyline of Syphon Filter itself isn't what I would call groundbreaking. As a matter of fact, it's pretty stock in some ways, but I feel like it gets the job done. I mean, it definitely isn't going to compete with Metal Gear for storyline, but I didn't find the story bad. One thing I did find bad about Syphon Filter, however, were the graphics. Even for the time period, these were pretty bland, to say the least. I felt like they could have did a better job with that. And the voice acting was pretty B-movie quality, I think. The real enjoyment that I got out of Syphon Filter wasn't really in the storyline or anything else I just mentioned. It was actually in the core gameplay, because as a shooter, this game was pretty good. It had some unique features, some really cool animations, especially for the time period, and a target lock feature where you can basically focus on one particular target and track him no matter what you're doing, whether you're running, crouching, or whatever, and it leads to some pretty dramatic shooting action, like shooting over while aiming over the shoulder and whatnot. It's very cool. And as I just said, some of the animations were pretty impressive to me for the time period, such as being able to roll to avoid gunfire, and just a general movement around looked pretty cool, even if Gabe Logan did seem to have the unfortunate habit of kicking himself in the back of the pants while running. Overall, Syphon Filter was a very fun game to me, and I really enjoyed it. Now, they actually made two more sequels to Syphon Filter on the PlayStation 1. From what I've come to understand, Syphon Filter 2 and 3 were very much similar to the original. I think the graphics and the voice acting got a little bit better, but the basic gameplay never really changed all that much. Now, Syphon Filter kind of dropped off the map around the time of the third game's release. I think it was losing popularity around that point. They had one title released on the PlayStation 2 called Syphon Filter The Omega Strain, and it ended up being so bad that it sunk the franchise, and they never ended up releasing another Syphon Filter title on the PS2 or 360 or PS3 or anything. It would be several years before the Syphon Filter franchise would re-emerge, except this time on the PSP handheld console, where, as I come to understand, it's actually done quite well and has released a couple of quality titles. Now, I'm not really sure where the Syphon Filter series is going to go from here. I would really like to see it return to consoles, because I think that it has great potential to do very well there. Because to me, while it may have lacked the flash and the popularity of Metal Gear Solid, it definitely made up for it in gameplay, because thinking back to the original Metal Gear Solid and the original Syphon Filter title on PS1, I have to say that I had much more fun watching Metal Gear Solid and much more fun playing Syphon Filter. Now, in closing, I feel I should inform everyone that the joint project Total Game Analysis Mass Effect that Night Marcher and myself are planning has suffered some unfortunate setbacks, but it is still in development and should be completed within a reasonable time period, so definitely keep your eyes open for that, as it is on the horizon.